All right, welcome everybody to our weekly Friday Town Hall, where we go over the different happenings that happened this week in Komodo, as well as introduce the community to new projects that have interesting potential and to give people more information about what's going on in the world of crypto. So first, I'll start with the updates for this week. This week was kind of sorry, a little bit slow here, but we do have some updates here for you. One, an old Komodo community member, Tony, if you guys remember him, is now back in action with us. He's working currently on a trading campaign. So he's working on right now getting swap statistics and volume data to start broadcasting on our social media. Tuesday, he has a presentation with the crypto Komodo team from the Cosmos ecosystem. We're trying to make some headway there because we have the Cosmos coins in our wallet currently that are available to swap with, and that would be a big win for us. And on Monday, he's planning on starting on different social media activities. SMK is currently testing the Windows, Mac, and Trezor functionality, working on the build documentation and completing the smoke test on the KDF recent version of 2.52, which takes us to Omar's updates here. So Omar is working on the 2.52 beta early next week. That should be released. So if you are more tech savvy and you would like to help test that, look for that in our GitHub. This should be merging in different fixes for the maker orders. Some of you might have noticed some issues this past week, and that was because of testing going on. We're trying different conditions and simulating an active adversary, attacking the peer-to-peer messaging network layer. So if there's any issues, let us know. We're currently monitoring the duplicate order fix over this weekend. Lindsay, our PR ladies, scheduling a network coverage on November 15th. She has gotten. Sorry, did I get booted? No. She is currently working with Don. They just had a podcast that was done today. So that should be coming out soon. We'll share that with the community once it's out. Additionally, we've gotten some additional coverage in some news sources. Let's see here. On my end, I've been working on business plan essentially for what I call meta transaction relay feature. That the plan is that after we get the initial paymaster functionality going on in the wallet for to essentially cover gas fees for the part of the token that you're trading, we would like to run a service where you would be able to use Komodo to essentially pay for any gas fees. Essentially, you would prepay Komodo or even other cryptocurrencies for internal credit, and that credit would be deducted every time that you would do a swap or a transaction if you would like. So you would not need the ultimate goal of this is that you wouldn't need to worry about gas in our wallet for different token transfers across many different blockchains. So let's see here. Also, response documentation is being done for different centralized exchange hacks that were discussed. So the recent events with different hacks, indexes and stuff, we're just preparing communications and stuff regarding that for marketing purposes. We're actively outreaching to different coin communities next week we are planning to have Dash on to speak to us about that network and as part of our showcase of different coins and blockchain technology. Additionally, I am trying to schedule a meetup with a uh, Vegas crypto group, which has been actively proposing or advocating for legislation, not proposing, um, on and at at Congress. So it would be good to hear from a different side of crypto as well. Those who are trying to push for mainstream legitimacy. So that's the wrap up of the different updates for the week. It was pretty slow, but there's a couple other things actually. So two major things. Decker has gotten the macOS uh, build working. They're just running the final tests with that right now. Um, this is good. So it should go without saying that we got the developer keys now for all the different platforms, and we should have the desktops and the mobiles out soon. Sorry, hold on one second. I got a bunch of background noise.
Uh, I'm just letting my presence know, Paul. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
I'll say a few things. You see that we're keeping up here with the shows every week. I'm happy that there's so many people here today. This is fantastic. And I hope at some point we build this up to 50 to 100 people. And we create such a great community where everything that we actually do in marketing will actually have an effect. Where anything you do now with a little crowd, you'll see it with those small marketing coins, with those smaller coins when they do marketing. It doesn't really do anything because they don't have anybody. There's no community, right? So the bigger we make Komodo's community, which can be huge because Komodo includes every coin, right? You could be include every coin could be included in Komodo. You could be part of the Komodo's exchange. You could cut their tech and put it into yours, and have a back and forth. If you need help with the implementation, we got devs. Jump into the dev channel. Get your devs in here. If you're part of a coin, get your devs in here. Ask questions. How do we get it on? Reach a starting point, right? And you can make your coin even better if you're one of those people that run a coin. Like, so, thanks for being here today. Just wanted to throw that out there, and it shows that what we're doing here is just getting stronger and stronger. And if we keep going the way we're going, we could educate everybody, and you could start educating your friends, and crypto could maybe take the right path instead of where it's deviated from because no one's talking to each other anymore. No one's educating each other. Right? Back in the day, if you did something wrong in Komodo, three people will come out of left field slapping you, saying, "Hey, you can't do that." You try to build a website, a .com, JL will come out of left field. You can't do that. That's centralized. Right? So, we want to get back to that point, that cypherpunk history that Komodo had when it started. Right. So and it looks like we're at a great start here, guys, and we're just going to keep it going. We have two shows every Friday, and I'm looking to increase that. At some point, I want the whole day, the whole Friday, to be full of entertainment where you could come in here, you could chill, and then if you miss it, you can play the recordings afterwards.
All right, yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. Not my place I normally speak at during these meetings just got real loud all of a sudden, so I moved to a different location. Um, yeah, Pirate Bread or Loots, if you know him as that, is definitely right. We're looking at getting back with our cypherpunk roots and trying to expand our community as wide as possible and to collaborate with many different groups of people to really bring crypto back to what it was and not this what it's becoming. I see Nitride's on. I didn't have the GUI updates, so Nitride, can you give your GUI updates for this week?
Yeah. Yeah, we're planning on releasing it next week. TM. I know it's been out the way, but yeah, this week was mainly focused on uh, signing and everything that's needed in preparation for the release. So very few changes to the app itself. But yeah, it turns out that it is a major. It's a bit of a pain in the ass for to get the macOS app built and out. But yeah, uh, that's pretty much that. Yeah, then that'll include Pirate and some other small fixes. One update though that one update is that I mentioned last week that we're going to be targeting Wallet Connect and the overhaul login and registration flow for the end of the year. But we're no longer going to be targeting Wallet Connect. We've got some UX concerns specifically about the swaps. So yeah, we want to go back to the drawing boards a bit for that before we make it out public. We really rethink that because otherwise it's a bit dead on arrival if you connect your Wallet Connect wallet to Komodo and then you have to sit around for 20 minutes and sign the transaction at every step of the swap. So yeah, we're going to go back to the drawing board a bit on that, and then we want to bring it when it's pretty polished. But yeah, so then for the end of the year, the roadmap is primarily then overhauled login and registration flow, which includes nice things like biometrics and pretty much you can get started in the app with just a few clicks, just register and log in, and then back up your seat later. And yeah, then depending on what the time looks like, then we might find space for one other goodie, but so for the end of the year, we're targeting just the authentication and uh, sign up flow, which may seem kind of like inconsequential for us, but for attracting new users, it's super important. Um, yeah, every extra click in the sign up process is more users lost. Um, but yeah, uh, in a nutshell, this week's just been on the logistics of getting the build out. And then also there's just that update that we're no longer targeting Wallet Connect for this quarter at least. Yeah, that's everything from me, Paul.
Right, yeah. And yeah, the login flow fix is definitely something that's needed. Sure, a lot of people, and I've seen them in our support channels and stuff, where they get kind of confused. They try to import their wallet into the new Komodo wallet, some old wallet, and um, they don't see their funds because they, had a multi-address on or something. So having a more streamlined process is, a lot better. That will reduce the flow of confusion.
Yeah, and also just brings us in line with what the general, industry standards are. So yeah, but yeah, then yeah, that's everything from GVibe for me now.
Yep. I know a lot of pirates are here. So yeah, the R swaps and the web app are working. There are just there's a few bugs to hammer out and stuff. But yeah, it is coming. It's on the way. I know we've been saying it for a while now, but it's really here. I've done several swaps now across UTXO coins and EVM chains. So yeah, the swap functionality is fully working. It's just some minor UI issues and such that are being taken care of before we release it. So
Um, yeah, Polytop. Yeah, those issues that you reported at the beginning of the week, we've patched them. Like that, those minor bugs. So unless there's other new issues, then those part issues all wrapped up and no further changes planned for All right, so if you could give the internal wallet preview a go, then yeah. But yeah, at this stage, so anything that's blocking for the GUI releases is just some last minute iOS and macOS logistics for getting that out.
Yeah, but this will be great because I know the unified code base was, a big project from last year, and the one of the main purposes of this was that we can get all the different versions, whether it's Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, so on. A more consistent release schedule, and it's been a long time coming, but this is going to be great for us. It's a big step, and future releases, will be a lot more smoother than what we've had. So, thank you guys for your patience. With that, it's a big project switching everything over. Yeah, so now like to introduce for our, I guess you call a crypto exposition of different projects. Biz, he's a developer with the Chips project. With Chips is has a long history. Originally, he was on NXT as Pangea Poker and Private Bet, and then that got kind of merged together. It made into acid chains, and then Chips was created as initially a Komodo chain, focusing on like a Lightning Network integration, and now it's found a better way to do stuff with Varus. But I'll let Biz, give the history, the background, what the project's doing, where it's going, what we can expect from it, and all that. So I will turn it over to Biz now.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. So I guess what we'll do first is we'll kind of go over the history of Chips and how we got here to our eventual Varus landing point, the problems that Varus solved for us along the way there, and kind of in between that, I'll talk about myself, my work history, and how I wound up doing the work for Chips and the fundraising that we'll be doing in the coming months. So starting off with how Chips kind of got its start. Sarat, SG777, and JL777 wrote a research paper some time ago that is what I believe is the first efficient protocol for essentially internet-based poker. The idea kind of comes from a thought experiment paper published by Revest, Shamir, and Adelman. They're the authors of the RSA encryption suite. And the thought experiment essentially goes, can we have an honest game of poker over the phone with no deck? Every prior implementation or attempt at solving the problem just was not efficient enough for communication on the wire for the internet. So what SG777 did is essentially build this out into an efficient protocol using some clever tweaks to Curve 25519 cryptography. All that to say, we migrated the betting engine from a legacy Bitcoin backend. That's where I initially got involved with Chips, was migrating our node software from Bitcoin 0.16.0 to eventually Bitcoin version 23, I believe it was. In between that, I got things working with the Lightning Network. I did some work with NSPV to make that attempt at getting Chips rolling a little more efficient. We wound up finding out that Varus solved a lot of our needs, namely within WebSockets. We were able to completely get rid of those just using ID content multi-maps on Varus to do all the same communication with no handshake whatsoever, just publishing the blockchain as one does with IDs. So how do we get here? Just kind of answered that in terms of the transitions that followed what Polly initially described from Komodo to Bitcoin. But the betting protocol itself hasn't really changed. We're just using kind of Varus as a different backend and for distributed storage. So the first task that I really had as far as Chips and Varus go was figuring out how to make this work in such a manner that made Chips have more chain security, So some background on chips more generally. We had already reached maximum total supply because of adaptive POW and just no new development for quite some time. It was always designed to be the denominated currency for playing poker with. So prior to our migration of Varus, mining was largely altruistic since block rewards had reduced to zero. Transactions were pretty infrequent because we didn't have a GUI, and price discovery hadn't occurred. So my first task was to migrate chips from the Bitcoin backend to Varus. And that's when I kind of started learning about Varus. Since then, I've started doing work for Varus. And I also do some work for Epic, who you guys spoke with last week when I messed up the scheduling. That's a little more infrequent, but between those two projects, I've got a solid Zcash foundation development-wise. Mimblewimble is probably my least familiar out of the three major ones. And I launched Blur back in 2018. That one's based on Monero. I got involved with Komodo through getting approached by James way back in 2019, 2020. He wanted me to add support for Monero coins to DPoW. That got as far as a proof of concept. We did notarize data to Komodo, but we never actually launched in production just because funding ran short. So all that to say, I really probably one of the more broad perspectives on privacy technology that you could amass in crypto. I don't really know of anyone else who's worked with all the implementations as much as I have. Bet is unique in that it's a betting engine that uses these Curve 25519 tools to simulate essentially any game of chance you could imagine. We use the empty bytes at the end of cryptographic keys to encode card values, dice values, things like that. And poker is one of the harder protocols to solve because you have collusion that's possible between cashiers, dealers, players, and you also need dispute resolution. So after we completed the migration to Varus, we wound up not being able to have our funding needs met, both me and SG777. We just published a full fundraising document. I'll drop that in the chat afterward. Essentially, it's 3 months away from a full poker client implementation in GUI. We're standing on a lot of prior work all the way back from when JL77 was working on this. So a lot of it's done already. We essentially just have the dispute resolution stuff to take care of as far as it pertains to Varus. The Pangea protocol itself, once it's done for poker, can be extended to a multi-deck blackjack shoot that can be groove shuffled. Roulette, all dice games can be emulated, a 21 bell slot machine, and any type of guess the number or real-time lottery. So all this is to say that we're about 3 months away from having provably fair and verifiably secure casino games of chance on the blockchain with no house involved. Just the only people that are paid at all are the deck creating vendor. You obviously want to make sure that they're behaving honestly because they're responsible for creating the initial deck of cards. They're also the dealer, and they host the table. And then you have a cashier that I think is also big blind or something like that. Anyway, we combine these two entities with all the players and use multi-party computation, MPC, to blind the decks and essentially turn hands up or cards up or face down, depending on what point we're at in the game. All of that gets published to Varus IDs, as I said before, and all of it goes in the content multi-map. There's a lot of documentation on that. SG77 has done quite a bit of work documenting it. I kind of need to compile it and make it a little more legible. But I know that at the end of this, and I'll share this with the fundraising information as well, he would really like, he's a cryptographer by trade. He just presented a paper on hardening HSM clusters. The title of the paper was Hardening HSM Clusters, Resolving Key Sync Vulnerabilities for Robust CLI Isolation. He presented that at Asorix 2025, which was the 30th European Symposium on Research and Computer Security in Toulouse, France, this past month of September. So what he would like to do once we get this protocol fully implemented and functional on chips, which chips is an interesting blockchain because we needed high-speed communication to replace the WebSockets and use we can even fetch data from the mempool. So it is essentially real time as transaction propagation can get on the blockchain. And with 10-second blocks, it's a blockchain that's really suited for any high-speed gaming that might need that kind of response time. So once we finish, hopefully fundraising and implementing these 3 months of work, he and I are going to write a research paper on it and essentially submit it to all of the largest blockchain, information security, cryptography conferences in the world. And it's really cool because it's, a novel solution to a classic thought experiment by some really talented engineers. I'm excited about it. I think that if we get these, let's see, the fundraising goal that we have to meet is $38,400 equivalent. I've got about $6,000 left over from my prior funding for the blockchain migration of Varus, since we finished under budget. So I'll be contributing that directly. The 38,400, I believe, does not include the 6,000 that I'm contributing. No, it does. Okay. Yeah, anyway, I'll post that fundraising document. And if anyone else has more questions about chips and specifically the cryptography underpinnings, they're very interesting. I've written up some documentation on those. And I'll use some really cool, highly tested, novelly tweaked cryptography. I'm really impressed with what SG777 has put together. And it's been, gosh, I don't know, almost a decade in the making now, this project. So I'm really excited to get these last 3 months of work done and have something really cool at the end of it. With all that said, I can open it up for questions. If anyone has questions on chips, myself, the fundraising, Sarat's work.
Yes, a couple questions. I remember Chips had a 21 million coin supply previously. Has the coin supply changed, or has any changes been made to its tokenomics or economics?
Yes.
Depending on what you
So SuperNet donated, I believe it was 1.5 million of their existing chips holdings, so that we'll have some form of block rewards essentially in perpetuity. I don't recall the exact number, but I think it's for the next 10 to 15 years. There are still going to be positive block rewards. So thanks to James, we've kind of solved the tokenomics issue that got away from us.
Okay, and one other question: is there a light wallet or such that Chips has? I know I tried syncing the chain not too long ago, and I'm kind of in a bad location, being in the global south right now. Yeah, I kind of gave up after frustration. But is there some way, light wallet could connect to it, and is that planned? Oh, well, I'm guessing it has to almost be planned for actual gameplay, some light wallet type feature. So is that existing, or is that part of the fundraising?
It's not part of the fundraising. It's not existing, but it wouldn't be terribly difficult to implement it. We're going to have a lot of the same. We use all the same tools that Varus uses, right? So essentially, their software is directly portable to chips. The only thing that wouldn't be directly portable to chips would be the GUI implementation, but that's kind of bespoke and functions on the bet engine, which is separately maintained by us. So to answer your question more precisely, no, we do not have a light wallet implementation up presently, but I also run my own development light wallet D servers for my Varus work. I've been working on mobile wallets for them for quite some time now. And it wouldn't be hard to, get one set up for chips as well.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering. So, yeah, probably like a month ago, I was trying to sync it, and like I said, I'm in a bad location right now for trying to sync a quick chain. So, yeah, I was just wondering. Yeah, thank you for your answers.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate how fast the blockchain grew and the way that funding worked out, but we're here now, so we'll get a light wallet up and running once it makes sense to do so after the client implementation is done. Oh, all right, yeah. Didn't even think to look there. All right, so does it still keep players in? All right, so in terms of player anonymity, do you mean as far as like the betting goes? Like you don't know, you mean like encrypted card values? You use a Varus ID to join. Yeah, your question. So in some capacity, yes. Nothing on the bet engine has actually changed in terms of the anonymity of the encryption protocol. We do use Varus IDs, like sub IDs issued on chips to identify players, but I think that can be strongly pseudonymous, particularly if we can extend some of Varus's encryption features. There's some really interesting tooling that we're looking to build out after the initial client implementation, but we figured that that was like the client GUI were a good place to start. And once there's interest that follows, I think both Surat and I, at the rates that are requested in the fundraising, are willing to implement some new stuff. And some of the Verus encryption features are really unique in that they're off-chain completely. So if we tied those into Bet, I think it could be even more anonymous than the original implementation was.
Is it possible for chips to maybe not ever have to depend on another chain like Verus and operate on its own? That's what I would love to see for it.
Yeah, no. So Verus or Chips is a independent blockchain. It's a PBaaS chain on Verus. So there's cross-chain notarizations. We have all the benefits of being part of the Verus ecosystem, but it is a standalone layer one blockchain, and we have tokens issued on it for cashiers, for player IDs, all that good stuff using the Verus Data Exchange format. All of this is baked deeply into Verus IDs and the indexing that they enjoy with the VDXF IDs.
Yeah, how do we get
So
rid of
essentially,
those?
every single you have to understand that the IDs themselves don't actually you can encrypt between two IDs, and you're not encrypting any of the addresses specifically referenced in the ID. You can create a unique encryption address using any wallet secret. That's a conversation for another day. What Mike has built with the encryption channel addresses is, I think, a first in crypto, and it's Nakamoto consensus level simplicity for a very complicated solution. Takes some time to see why it works, how it works, but essentially you take your wallet secret and then two canonical IDs, the person you're encrypting to and your own, so from ID and to ID, and you derive a unique unlinkable address for that encryption channel. So while the various IDs are there and we use them for publishing of information, the game information is only published to the dealer and cashier's content multi-maps. So they're the ones managing the game. Players could sign up completely anonymously if they wanted to.
Can I jump in? Yeah, I agree that at this point your sole focus should be on the tech, and you guys are solving some cool problems. For decentralized gaming could be really great. So yeah, the focus should be purely on the tech at the moment, but for pitching to centralized exchanges. I know from previous business partnerships that gambling is a very, very heavily regulated industry, like especially with KYC and AML, because gambling is, pretty much one of the easiest ways to do AML. I mean, to do, ML if it's not regulated. But yeah, so that may be an issue that you might face, assuming if you do want to get, centralized exchange backing. But I mean, yeah, regardless of the tech that you're building, just like is yeah. I've tried to do some gaming experiments with Komodo in Unity, but I mean, if you have to wait like a couple of minutes when you're trading with people in your lobby, it doesn't really work if you want to be trading quickly. But yeah, so I mean, in a nutshell, it's cool tech that you're building. But yeah, have you considered any of the legislation issues and AML issues that you may face to get further funding?
Yeah, have definitely thought about it. The major weak spot I see in our current development design is the permission registration of cashiers and debt creating vendors. If we manage to decentralize that, which shouldn't be terribly difficult now with Verus, I think it reduces the risk a lot, because then it's more like you're just having, a poker game at home with your friends, and everybody's responsible for their own, money that they're putting into it, and the house isn't making a profit or anything, so
that's a great analogy for people that perhaps, yeah, it's like a one-line summary. You're not trying to build a casino, but you're trying to build something that facilitates, playing blackjack at home with your friends. The equivalent, which for like a gaming and decentralized gaming could be a big thing. Whether or not those points have monetary value or not, it's still, regardless, like for decentralized gaming, could be pretty big.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, especially like with well, I guess it's a bit of a far stretch of a connection, but especially now, like with all the attention that games that are getting shut down and like shut off, when the backers or the publishers lose interest, so the more that can be decentralized, and from my little bit of game dev experience, you can't trust anything that runs on the client, so you have to have a centralized backend for anything that needs to be trustworthy. But it sounds like this solves that issue, which is pretty cool. Cool stuff that you guys are doing.
Yeah, the content multi-map feature on Varus and the nature of just how Varus IDs allow you to structure data really was a huge game changer for building these apps that don't have a centralized backend. Mike calls them serverless apps. And with Varus IDs, and I mean, IDs just are a canonical record of who or what something is, right? So having that anchored on a blockchain is really, really useful, and it kind of allows you to reconceptualize the word identity towards the canonical record of what a thing is, rather than who a thing is, right? So I think they're valid questions you're asking, but I think we're uniquely positioned with some good answers for a lot of them. Not all of them, but for a lot, and it's in large part due to the huge breakthroughs Varus has made.
Yeah, I mean, focus on the tech first, and then worry about the stuff that the lawyers can figure out. If it needs to be figured out, even.
Right. I mean, we've
Yeah.
managed to keep all of the gambling logic, all of the actual game logic within the betting engine.
That's a huge, like, as like somebody that's like try to go the route of like game dev as a game dev, like as a career, like that is a very big game changer. Like yeah, if you were to try build like a P2P game session, and if you're doing stuff that involves money, you're pretty much like you're setting yourself up for failure, and you can't be running that stuff constantly. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to rehash points, and I'm sure there's plenty of other points that other people don't forget about the questions in chat.
Yeah. Oswald is asking, will it be white labeled so we can have a pirate casino?
I'm not sure what you mean by white labeled.
Can we use it?
You
Can we
would
fork it?
probably. It would be compatible with the VR chain. You do need IDs on Varus to run the software. The bet engine now relies on them completely. So you couldn't use the Pirate blockchain, but you could use VR, or you could launch a Pirate token and then route all your sub IDs through there on the Chips blockchain.
Ooh,
One thing that's really unique about Varus and Varus IDs is the sub IDs. So say somebody who is a famous poker player decides they want to sign up, they can kind of create their own reputation-based economies using Varus IDs and their own tokens on chips.
So we might actually have a good use case for VAR at some point. People to use it to gamble.
I think so, right? And ultimately they're the ones responsible for everything that they're doing, their own reputation. Even if a casino wanted to do it and use our software, they could, have the proper registrations and just run the code.
So I have a question about the chips and with valuation, the coins. So like when you're betting and stuff, part of the strategy when playing poker and is, sizing your bets based off of what's say the what's in the pot, at that moment, or that part of say the after the flop, or and you see so many coins in and who's betting, what position and so on. But with chips having a fluctuating value, how do you plan to deal with that kind of issue with actually like with the coins themselves not having a static value?
So when a game starts, a dealer updates their content multi-map on their ID and defines essentially a table. They define the max players, the big blind amount, the minimum stake, maximum stake, and their table ID for where the data gets published. So between each game, somebody can initiate or generate a new table definition. So I think just being able to custom specify makes that much less of an issue. So we had someone else here Ask, would love to read the published papers. Never thought so in depth encoding of an on-chain casino. I can definitely send some of the papers that we have. The documentation is probably a little bit more informative at this point, just because, you know, I wrote that from the white paper and from SG's old documentation. It's important to say too that it's not an on-chain casino. It's these games without the presence of a casino. So it's just a communication protocol, right? And I think that's important because it I think in a zero-sum game like poker is, or like any of these games will be, because of the table definitions, not having a house component and profit coming out is very important. And you also have code that proves it's doing what it does, that you can verify for yourself, which, you know, isn't really true of any casino anywhere in the world presently. I think that's all the questions that are in chat anyway.
Yes, sir. It would be really cool if chips worked like Komodo Exchange. If it gave every coin out there the option to fork it, and then add a casino to their own projects, and then all projects that do this could share the liquidity. Where Raven Coin community could be playing with players in the Monero Coin community, and it could just cross breed across all coins. That adapt chips into their own localized wallets. By forking it and sharing. You see what I'm saying? That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Varus actually makes that possible. Every UTXO on Varus is multi-currency. The currency that is being exchanged in the output is actually encoded into the script. So you could send Raven to the chips blockchain. It would get imported there if you converted it using Varus's tech, and then you could actually denominate your table and whatever you wanted to. It wouldn't have to be chips necessarily. We just have to add support for that in the betting engine, but it wouldn't be a hard change to make at all. What's important though is we have the 10-second block times, right? Otherwise, I mean, if you move that to any other blockchain, the poker games become unplayable.
Somebody asked, does chips have a dev fee? I'm sorry.
Does it have a dev fee? No, there's no dev tax on chips. No pre-mine, no dev tax. Just the fundraising effort for me and SG777. I'm going to put out some blockchain addresses if people want to make traditional donations. But I think we're also going to do the fundraising with a currency definition on Varus. Somebody offered to contribute a Varus ID for doing so and launch a currency. And that way, if the goal is not met, everyone gets a refund.
Nice. Maybe we could do something like that for make a pirate casino.
Yeah, I think that Varus is a really good place to kind of construct these. I would call it a decentralized grant.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Biz. I love you, brother. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for having me.
We go way, a lot of us go way back into the NXT days, and and I'm so happy I'm still in a community where I know such old school people.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Biz, for joining us today and telling us about chips. Yeah, if you're looking to get into that, check over at the Varus community whenever Biz does his fundraising. Make sure to post a message here too in the Komodo Discord, so get the word out. So yeah, we'll wrap up the meeting for today, and thank you all we will see you next week at the same time. Have a good weekend, everyone.